I felt her weathered hands trace the curve of my shoulders, gentle but certain. At 68, I thought I understood my body, my desires, my limits. But here, in Rita's dimly lit office, something awakened that I'd never felt before. Her fingers found the edge of my blouse, and I didn't stop her. I couldn't. The years between us meant nothing in that moment, only the electric current that passed between two women who'd found something unexpected in each other's touch. Before we dive deeper into this story, could you take a moment to like and subscribe? Your support truly helps this channel grow, and I promise you won't want to miss what comes next. I never expected to return to Rita's office, not after all these years. She'd been my therapist during the messiest chapter of my life, my divorce, at 55, when everything I thought I knew about myself crumbled. Now, 13 years later, I found myself climbing those familiar stairs in Providence, my heart beating with an anticipation I couldn't name. The building hadn't changed. Same creaky floorboards, same faint scent of lavender in the hallway. But when Rita opened the door, I was struck by how beautiful she looked at 70. Her silver hair caught the evening light, and those knowing eyes held the same warmth that had guided me through my darkest days. "Nancy," she smiled, stepping aside to let me in. "You look radiant." I smoothed my dress self-consciously. I'd chosen it carefully, a soft blue that brought out my eyes, fitted enough to show I still took care of myself. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. For you? Always." She gestured to the familiar couch where I'd spent countless hours unraveling my life. "What brings you back to me?" I settled into the cushions, immediately transported back to those vulnerable sessions. But this felt different. There was no therapeutic distance in her gaze tonight, no professional boundary in the way she curled up in her chair, tucking her legs beneath her like we were old friends catching up. "I've been thinking about connection," I began, surprising myself with the honesty. "About the paths we don't take, the desires we never explore." Rita leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with interest. "Tell me more." The words came easier than I expected. I talked about the years since my divorce, the safe relationships that never quite satisfied, the growing sense that I was living only half a life. Rita listened with the same intense focus I remembered, but there was something else now, a heat in her attention that made my pulse quicken. "You know," she said softly, "I've thought about you often over the years, wondered how you were healing, growing." Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "You were always so beautiful, Nancy, so full of untapped potential." The air between us shifted, charged with possibility. I felt my cheeks flush, my breath catching slightly. "Rita, I know this crosses every line," she continued, rising from her chair with fluid grace. "But I'm 70 years old, and I've learned that life is too short to ignore what we feel." She moved to sit beside me on the couch, close enough that I could smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive that suited her perfectly. Her hand found mine, fingers intertwining with a familiarity that shouldn't have existed, but somehow did. "What are you saying?" I whispered, though my body already knew the answer. "I'm saying that sometimes healing happens in ways we never expect." Her thumb traced gentle circles on my palm. "I'm saying that I've wondered what it would feel like to touch you not as your therapist, but as a woman who finds you incredibly attractive." My heart hammered against my ribs. In all my years, I'd never been with a woman, never even seriously considered it. But sitting there with Rita, feeling the warmth of her skin against mine, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. "I don't know how," I admitted, my voice barely audible. "Neither do I." She smiled, her hand moving to cup my cheek. "But maybe that's the point. Maybe the best discoveries happen when we stop overthinking and start feeling." She leaned in slowly, giving me every opportunity to pull away. I didn't. When her lips met mine, soft and sure, something inside me melted. The kiss was gentle at first, exploratory, her mouth moving against mine with a tenderness I'd forgotten existed. I responded instinctively, my hands finding the curve of her waist, pulling her closer. She tasted like mint tea and possibility. And when she deepened the kiss, I felt decades of carefully constructed walls crumble. "Is this okay?" she murmured against my lips. "More than okay," I breathed, surprised by the hunger in my own voice. Her fingers found the buttons of my blouse, working them open with patient care. Each new inch of exposed skin sent shivers through me, her touch reverent, appreciative. When she slipped the fabric from my shoulders, I felt beautiful in a way I hadn't experienced in years. "You're exquisite," she whispered, her lips trailing along my collarbone. "I want to show you how exquisite." I arched into her touch, my hands exploring the contours of her body through her silk blouse. She was soft where I was firm, curves that complemented my angles. When she guided me back against the cushions, I went willingly, lost in the new language our bodies were creating together. Her mouth found the sensitive spot where my neck met my shoulder, and I gasped, my fingers tangling in her silver hair. She took her time, mapping every response, learning what made me sigh, what made me arch, what made me whisper her name like a prayer. "I want to taste you," she murmured, her hand skimming the edge of my skirt. "I want to discover every secret you've been keeping." The words sent heat pooling low in my stomach. I nodded, unable to speak, and she smiled that knowing smile that had always made me feel seen, understood, cherished. She moved with deliberate slowness, her touch building anticipation until I was trembling beneath her. When she finally pressed, her mouth to my core, I cried out, my back arching off the couch. She was patient, attentive, responding to every sound I made, every movement of my body. The pleasure built slowly, intensely, different from anything I'd ever experienced. There was an emotional component that heightened every sensation, a connection that went beyond the physical. When the release finally took me, it was with a force that left me shaking, tears streaming down my cheeks. Rita held me through it, her arms strong and sure around my trembling form. "Beautiful," she whispered, pressing soft kisses to my temple. "So beautiful." I turned in her arms, needing to give back what she'd given me. My hands found the clasp of her blouse, and she helped me remove it, revealing skin that was soft and warm and perfect. I explored her with wonder, marveling at how different yet familiar she felt beneath my touch. When I took her into my mouth, she made a sound that went straight to my core. Her fingers guided me, teaching me her rhythm, her preferences. I learned that she liked gentle pressure, long strokes, the occasional graze of teeth that made her gasp my name. "Nancy," she breathed, her body tensing beneath me. "Oh, Nancy." I felt her release building, the way her breathing changed, the way her thighs trembled around my shoulders. When she finally reached her peak, I stayed with her, holding her through every wave, every aftershock. We lay tangled together afterward, skin damp with exertion, hearts gradually slowing. The office felt transformed, no longer a place of clinical healing, but a sanctuary where two women had discovered something profound about themselves and each other. "What happens now?" I asked, tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. "Now we live, with the knowledge of what we're capable of feeling," she said, her fingers combing through my hair. "Now we decide if we want to explore this further." I lifted my head to meet her eyes. "Do you?" "I'm 70 years old, Nancy. I don't have time to waste on anything that doesn't feed my soul." She cupped my face in her hands. "This feeds my soul. VDL." Next morning, I practically floated into the coffee shop where I was meeting my friend Peggy. She took one look at me and set down her latte with a thud. "Okay, what happened to you?" she demanded, her eyes wide with curiosity. "What do you mean?" I tried to play innocent, but I could feel the glow radiating from my skin. "Nancy Marie, I've known you for 15 years, and I have never seen you look like this. You're practically glowing. Did you meet someone?" I sank into my chair, unable to suppress my smile. "You could say that. Details. Now." I hesitated, unsure how to explain what had happened without sounding completely insane. "Do you remember Rita, my old therapist?" Peggy's eyebrows shot up. "The one who helped you through your divorce? What about her?" "I went to see her yesterday, just to catch up, and—" I trailed off, feeling heat rise in my cheeks. And we connected in a way I never expected." Peggy stared at me for a long moment, processing. "Connected how?" I met her eyes steadily, intimately. "Holy—" She caught herself, glancing around the crowded cafe. "Nancy, are you telling me you slept with your therapist?" "Former therapist," I corrected. "And yes." Peggy sat back in her chair, looking stunned. "How do you feel about it?" I considered the question seriously. Alive. For the first time in years, I feel completely, vibrantly alive. "And her? How does she feel?" "The same, I think. We're seeing each other again tomorrow." Peggy shook her head in amazement. "I have to say, I'm shocked, but you look happier than I've seen you in, well, ever. So I guess the only question that matters is, are you happy?" "Deliriously," I admitted. That evening, Rita called me. Just hearing her voice sent warmth spreading through my chest. "I can't stop thinking about last night," she said without preamble. "Neither can I. I want to see you again, not in my office. This time, somewhere that's just ours." "Where?" "My place, tomorrow night. I'll cook for you." The thought of being in Rita's personal space, sharing a meal before sharing ourselves again, sent anticipation thrumming through my veins. "I'd like that." "Good. And Nancy?" "Yes. Wear something comfortable, something you won't mind losing quickly." The line went dead, leaving me breathless and already counting the hours until tomorrow. Rita's house was a charming Victorian in the historic district, filled with art and books and the kind of careful curation that spoke of a life well lived. She greeted me at the door in a flowing dress that hugged her curves beautifully, her hair loose around her shoulders. You're stunning, I said, meaning it completely. So are you. She took my hand, leading me inside. I made risotto. I hope you're hungry. I was, but not necessarily for food. The way she looked at me, the memory of her touch, had my body humming with anticipation. Still, I appreciated her gesture, the normalcy of sharing a meal, the chance to learn more about each other outside the intensity of physical connection. We talked over dinner, about art, travel, the books lining her shelves. I learned that she'd been married once, decades ago, to a man who never quite understood her need for intellectual stimulation. The marriage had ended amicably, and she'd spent the subsequent years building a practice, traveling, discovering herself. I had lovers, she said over dessert, her eyes holding mine across the small table. Men, mostly. A few women, but nothing serious. Nothing that made me want to reshape my life. And now? Now I'm wondering if I was just waiting for the right person to walk back into my office. After dinner, she led me to her bedroom, a sanctuary done in soft blues and creams, with French doors opening onto a small balcony. The bed was king-sized, covered in silk sheets that caught the lamplight. I want to take my time with you tonight, she said, her hands finding the zipper of my dress. I want to learn every inch of you, every sound you make, every way you like to be touched. I shivered as the fabric pooled at my feet. I want that too. She undressed slowly, each revealed curve a masterpiece I wanted to memorize. When we came, together on the silk sheets, it was with a hunger tempered by tenderness, a desire to give as much as we took. She explored me with her mouth, her hands, finding places that made me gasp and arch. I returned the favor, marveling at how she responded. To my touch, how her body sang beneath my lips. We moved together with increasing urgency, our connection deepening with each shared breath, each whispered endearment. When we finally joined completely, our bodies moving in perfect rhythm, it felt like coming home to a place I'd never known, I was searching for. The pleasure built slowly, intensely, until we reached our peak together, crying out each other's names as waves of sensation crashed over us. Afterward, we lay entwined, skin damp and hearts gradually slowing. Rita traced lazy patterns on my shoulder, her touch soft and reverent. I never expected this, she murmured. At my age, I thought I was done with surprises. The best ones come when we're not looking for them, I replied, pressing a kiss to her collarbone. What do we do now? How do we navigate this? I considered her question seriously, carefully, honestly, one day at a time. She lifted her head to meet my eyes. I'm willing if you are. More than willing. The months that followed were a revelation. Rita and I moved carefully, building something real and lasting from the foundation of unexpected passion. We navigated the questions, the raised eyebrows, the complicated feelings that came with loving someone who had once held such a different role in my life. But through it all, the connection we discovered that first evening remained constant, a source of joy, comfort, and continued discovery. At 68 and 70, we were learning that it's never too late to surprise yourself, never too late to find love in the most unexpected places. Sometimes the greatest healing comes not from talking through our pain, but from allowing someone else to touch the tender places we've kept hidden. Have you ever found unexpected love with someone who already knew your secrets? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Don't forget to like this story and subscribe for more tales of love found in surprising places. Your support means everything. Until next time, keep your hearts open to possibility.